morning. Hi, my name is Deb Schaefer, and I am the ministry director here at Christian Fellowship Church. I have the pleasure of introducing 3 speakers today, and our first one is coming up. Can you get Joe in the picture at all? A little bit, just a little bit closer. Okay, there's your 6 feet. No, can you get her? There we go. Okay. So anyway, I met Joe 10 plus years ago when we were doing a Tuesday morning Bible study, and you had 2 children at that time? 1.5. Oh, that's right. That's right. And our relationship has grown over the years, and now she is on staff here at Christian Fellowship. And like the other 3 speakers, not that they're all on staff, but all 3 of them, coincidentally, work in children's ministries. And I just find that a fun coincidence. I didn't plan it that way, but God knows what he's doing. So this past January, we as a staff, which we do every January, had a prayer day together. And Joe was there, and at one point towards the end of the day, we were having a discussion. I think we were praying together, and then we started talking about some things, and she just mentioned something about the humility of rest. And my eyes just went, wow, I love that. And I was thinking about it for days and days, and like, what does that mean? What does this look like? Just in all kinds of different directions. And I love that. And that's where this retreat right now that we're having started right then in January on that prayer day. I like this is a go-to thing. So Joe, you will find her to be more than delightful. She is full of personality, and we're in for a real treat. So welcome, Joe. Yay. Go ahead, Joe.
Character and imploring my fellow classmates to remember that we, as followers of Jesus, are called to sit at his feet and be filled. Little did I know that would be the picture of my life many times over. Oh, life is a funny thing. One moment, I was a teenager, wishing life would hurry up and start. The next moment, I was married. I had a 1-year-old. I was pregnant with our second baby. It was soon after finding out we were expecting our second son that my husband and I felt called to full-time ministry. This is what we had gone to school for. We were ready. It was like being in the minors and being called up to the big leagues. We had this amazing opportunity to be full-time parents at Coyote Hill Christian Children's Home in nearby Harrisburg, Missouri. As a couple of early 20-somethings, we got to step in as parents to, at that time, 6 and eventually 8 foster boys and girls needing the love and care of a family. I was pumped. I was ready to go. I felt like I had been training for this for the 4 years of college, and I was ready to serve. When we stepped in, we had 3 15-year-olds. We had a 13-year-old, 2 10-year-olds, the baby boy who was 1, and I was pregnant. We did baseball games. We cooked meals for 12 people. We had people in and out of our home. We had meetings with caseworkers and all of the ins and outs of parenting and parenting teens when we were 22 and 23 ourselves. I don't know about you, but unfortunately, when life moves faster than I can process, my time with God is the first thing I cut out to give myself more time. I put this in present tense because this is a habit I am actively breaking daily. Early on in our time at Coyote Hill, I knew my soul needed to be filled. After searching, we found Christian Fellowship, and I quickly joined that multi-generational women's Bible study that Deb talked about earlier today. It was a time of fellowship, and spiritual refreshment, rest I could count on each Tuesday morning. Yet, as the stresses of foster parenting and caring for a new baby took hold, attending to my soul was the first thing to go. I didn't have time for rest. As I look back, I am reminded of a recounting of a miracle of Jesus in Mark chapter 6, verse 30 through 33, and we'll read it aloud. It says, the apostles gathered around Jesus. They told him all they had done and taught. But many people were coming and going, so they did not even have a chance to eat. Then Jesus said to his apostles, "Come with me by yourselves to a quiet place. You need to get some rest." So they went away by themselves in a boat to a quiet place, but many people who saw them leaving recognized them. They ran from all the towns and got there ahead of them. In earlier verses, it talks about Jesus having sent his disciples out in twos to each village, to teach from village to village, By the time the disciples came back around to Jesus, he tells them it is time for them all to have a rest. Yet, he looks upon the people flocking to them and has compassion on them. So instead of turning them away, he feeds them, soul and body. It is in verse 41 that the most amazing clarity was revealed to me. It says, Jesus took the 5 loaves and the 2 fish. He looked up to heaven and gave thanks. There has never been a time in my life that I have not been a part of church life. I say that to show this story. This miracle is not new to me. I even had a cheeky sweatshirt in high school that said a breadcrumb and fish instead of a Abercrombie and Fitch. I thought I was clever. Yeah. I have always loved this telling, but it was not until 2 weeks ago that something was revealed to me. Now, in this time of quarantine, or as a friend of mine recently said, the quarantimes, I have been leading a group of women through the Bible app devotional, Overwhelmed by My Blessings. Those blessings being our children. One of the early days, the veteran mom, Robin Meadows, who is sharing her wisdom, speaks about the notion of needing to have our vessel be full to pour into others. I know I haven't shared what was revealed to me in the passage a moment ago, but I promise it's going to make sense in a minute. Most of us have been taught that in order to pour into the lives of others, we must first be full. Or if not full, we must at least be pouring ourselves from something else. We have to have something to give to others, something in our own stores. But Robin goes on to say that as children of God, we are tapped into the source. We don't need to be full ourselves because the source of everything is flowing through us if we are tapped into him. Let me tell you, my mind was blown. It's like God is my IV. I just need to be plugged in, and he provides the nourishment. Whoa. So looking at Jesus in Mark 6:41, he did the most simple and profound act. He gave thanks. I kind of chuckled to myself at this because when I think of giving thanks, I'm reminded of sitting around the table for meals and doing the, "Dear Lord, thank you for this food and the hands that prepared it. Amen." Then you can eat. But reading this passage through the lens of service, of giving myself as Jesus does in this accounting, it is so much more. In giving thanks, he is affirming his connection to the source. And through that connection, he is able to pour out to everyone else. As the volunteer coordinator for CF Kids, I am given the task of recruiting volunteers to serve alongside us. At one point, I was scrolling through the list of names of potential volunteers and thinking of the people I know who are not already serving. During this process, I was given the picture of woven baskets. Ones used to carry water, like intricately woven for the process or for the purpose of sharing nourishment. The problem was the baskets were worn down, frayed, in disrepair, yet still being used. That not nearly effective. Like the picture was like the baskets are running to the water source, but the water is falling out of the basket as the basket is doing its best to hold it. Okay, pause. Get those two pictures in your head. Jesus giving thanks to his Father, our Father, the source of it all, providing for everyone who needed. The other, the warm baskets, doing all they can to fill themselves, but coming up short. While I was a mom at Coyote Hill, if I stayed firmly connected to God, I was able to serve my children. It was in the misinformed notion of needing more time that I became a frayed vessel. It was a subtle shift from clarity to darkness. Like a day earlier this week that started out beautiful and sunny. The clouds came in slowly. The sky went from blue to gray, and even through the gray, we could still see light. It wasn't until the first clap of thunder did we know for certain the storm had hit. The same could be said of my mental health. I could see the signs, but was able to continue until suddenly I couldn't. My basket was broken, and I was no longer plugged into my source. I am very open about my struggle, so I will put a name to it. Anxiety, depression. Those are my bedfellows. These are the weights I carry daily. And at that point in my life, I was only able to eat a couple of bites of food before getting sick. I was broken. Even more, I was jealous, and I was frustrated. Why would God have me suffer through this affliction if I am supposed to be serving him through these children? This was my purpose. If the other women I was serving with were able to carry on, why couldn't I? The day my supervisor looked me in the eye and asked if I was okay was one of the most humbling of my life. I had to say no. As a 24-year-old, I had to quickly gather the humility to ask for help, the humility to not be okay, and the humility to rest. We were given 2 months to get our affairs in order and move on from the ministry. Here I was, a Martha. I was so busy doing the work that I neglected the most important thing, resting at the feet of Jesus, the source of all I do. My walk with anxiety and depression has been nothing short of an adventure. I relate coming to accepting their presence in my life to going through a cycle of grief. There was denial, there was anger, there was bargaining, there was depression, and finally acceptance. As I was preparing for today, the most beautiful verses were revealed to me. I'm going to turn to 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 6 through 10. I'm reading from the New International R version. Is it revised? I don't know. I call it the Nerve version. But it reads, "Suppose I decide to brag. That would not make me a fool because I would be telling the truth, but I don't brag so that no one will think more of me than they should. People should judge me by what I do and say. God has shown me amazing and wonderful things. People should not think more of me because of it. So I wouldn't become proud of myself. I was given a problem. This problem caused pain in my body. It is a messenger from Satan to make me suffer. 3 times I begged the Lord to take it away from me, but he said to me, 'My grace is all you need. My power is strongest when you are weak.' So I am very happy to brag about how weak I am. Then Christ's power can rest in me. Because how I suffered for Christ, I am glad that I am weak. I am glad in hard times. I am glad when people say mean things about me. I am glad when things are difficult, and I am glad when people make me suffer. When I am weak, I am strong." That there is a beautiful picture of acceptance, of humility. I am so weak, y'all. There is not much I can do without the power of the Lord guiding me in my every breath. My husband and I moved to Columbia with our 2 little boys after our time serving at Coyote Hill. Learning to walk in the humility of my own affliction has been a series of growing moments. Remember what I said to my 12-year-old. Growth always takes you somewhere, but it's rarely comfortable getting there. Early in 2019, I reposted a meme on Facebook asking if I were to give a TED Talk, what would it be my topic? And there were some funny ones, like being a boy mom, because there's a lot of them in my world. But 2 responses stuck out to me: encouraging other mamas and not doing what is expected of me to the benefit of my family. After moving to Columbia, I started the process of earning my master's degree in human service counseling and obtaining my elementary teaching certification. Life never really does slow down for long. So by the time I was done with my degree program and ready to start teaching, I was pregnant with our 3rd biological child, and we had brought 2 teenage boys into our home, one with the intention of adopting. So for those of you that hate the maths, we went from 2 kids to 5 kids in the matter of 4 months. And once again, I didn't have time for God. Once again, I saw a decline in my mental health over the course of my years in teaching. Even medicated, I was not well. I would give my all in my classroom and have nothing left for my children and husband. Here I was, a breaking basket, struggling to hold enough water to sustain myself, my students, and my family, all without being connected to the source. A dear friend of mine asked last week if I had ever reached so far for a goal that I lost sight of myself. Yes. The answer was yes. She asked me what I did to fix it. I told her I cut out everything except the purpose God gave me. My first ministry is to my family. If, after teaching, I had nothing left to give, or they were getting my scraps, then I was not being the minister to their souls that they so deserve. If, even medicated, I was struggling through the fog, something had to give. I gave up teaching. Kind of. I left public education and took my children with me. As of this last August, I am now primarily a stay-at-home mom, a homeschool mom of my 3 littles. Coming to that decision came with the clarity that I was not in a good place in my relationship with God. Again. By the end of this past school year, I was hiding in my bed on Sunday mornings. The idea of being around more people was too much for my mind to handle. I was trying to rest on my own, and it was not working. I am an amazing napper, and I take a bath like nobody's business. I can escape in a book like others can escape into a TV program, and I won't come back out until I'm on the other side. These are all suggestions for self-care, but nothing was quenching my soul. I was dry, tired, and broken. From that place, I cried out to the Lord to guide me back to a place of spiritual nourishment. My first step was to cut out the extra, but the bigger step was to tap back into the source. I never thought I would be a stay-at-home mom. I would always say that is great for moms that can do that. I'm just not one of them. Now, the Lord tends to get a kick out of me making declarations like that. I made one such declaration back in college after watching a movie about dancing. One of the girls I went with remarked that the only person she could see dancing like that was the funny Lorenzo guy at school. And I said, wouldn't it be funny if one of us married him? Then I knocked on wood. We were married 1.5 years later. Like I said, the Lord gets a kick out of my mouth. So, here I am, a stay-at-home mom with a part-time job 7 minutes from my house. It should not be difficult to spend time with the Lord, right? Joke's on me again. The devotional I mentioned earlier even spoke to the need for an hour alone with the Lord to prepare and nourish your soul for the day. Like getting rest before the needs of all the things wear you down. I couldn't imagine the gift of going through the day with continued peace, especially since she suggested waking an hour before my children to find time alone. That sounds counterintuitive. Wake up earlier to have more rest. Now, I knew she was tripping, and I wrote tripping. I knew she was tripping. But I'm leading this devotional group, so I felt obligated to try and report back to my friends how it went. One of the women almost thought I was tooting my own horn for a moment. Oh no, life is too messy for Bible time with the Lord to be a smooth transition. So I'm going to humble myself before you all as well with my stumbling into daily peace. Day 1, I woke up at the same time as Naomi, my 4-year-old. and read my Bible and devotional while Naomi chattered around me. I threw a couple ahas in there, but was able to give most of my attention to my reading. I felt pretty good and encouraged. Day 2. I set my alarm for a little earlier the next morning. Again, Naomi wanted my attention, but I did what the devotional lady suggested, and I told her this is my quiet time. I got 5 minutes before she decided quiet time was over. I figured if I really want time with just the Lord and myself, I need to go all in and wake up that hour earlier. Day 3, my alarm goes off. An hour before Naomi and I typically wake up. Now, Naomi is an extreme snuggler, like the X Games of snuggling here, and finds her way into my bed most nights. I quickly turned off the alarm before it got loud enough to disturb my snuggle monster. I was admittedly tired, but I was committed to spending this time alone with God. I finished with the first devotional and scriptures and I lost a page. Ha! I finished. Okay. Thank you so much. Okay. Bless you. This is life, and I love it. Okay, I finished with the first devotional and scriptures and move on to the second one from a veteran mom. Yep, this is what happened. In the midst of reading, I feel a tickle on my leg, and I swat at it, thinking it's like a phantom itch or something. Not 2 minutes later, Naomi sits bolt upright in the bed from a dead sleep. Ma! She yells. I jump, like, what? You're like right here. She said, I just peed in your bed. Of course you did. Y'all, she hadn't peed in the bed for months. Months! Okay, day 4. I woke up an hour early-ish again, and I tiptoed into the bathroom to not wake the snuggle beast. And as soon as I sat down, I hear, Mom, you in the potty? And then before I can answer, she proceeds to sing full verse of Head and Shoulders, Knees and Toes before flying right back down, right back asleep. Okay, I thought I was in the clear. I crept back in the room. I grab my Bible. I go downstairs, make some coffee. It's quiet until I heard, you whiffed me. I sat on the kitchen floor that day. She watched Frozen in the living room, and I read my Bible. I'm on week 5 now. One of the symptoms of anxiety can be insomnia. Instead of setting an alarm to wake up early, I'm learning to use my why am I awake hours as my thank you, God, for this time hours. The days I don't, I can feel a marked difference in my spirit. Those days, I'm not resting. I am irritable. I'm warm. I become a frayed basket so quickly if I don't tap in to He who gives me life. My sisters, we live in a time that celebrates exhaustion. We're shown that those who are rested must not be doing enough or are the privileged. But that's not it. In fact, the opposite is true. Rest is a gift, a beautiful gift that even the Lord partakes in the beginning, or day 7, as it were. He wants us to rest, and that rest is found in Him. All that is required is for us to have the humility to sit at his feet and take it in. Today I'm stepping out of my comfort zone a bit, just being here talking. But I'm going to step even further and share a song with you as well.
The more I seek you, the more I find you. The more I find you, the more I love you. I wanna sit at your feet, drink from the cup in your hand, lay back against you and breathe, feel your heartbeat. This love is so deep, it's more than I can stand. I rest in your peace, it's overwhelming. The more I seek you, the more I find you. The more I find you, the more I love you. I wanna sit at your feet, drink from the cup in your hand, lay back against you and breathe, feel your heartbeat. This love is so deep, it's more than I can stand. I rest in your peace, it's overwhelming. I wanna sit at your feet, drink from the cup in your hand, lay back against you and breathe, feel your heartbeat. This love is so deep, it's more than I can stand. I melt in your peace, it's overwhelming.
Is my mic on? Thank you, Joe. That was great. Got to keep the social distancing here, so. We good? Okay. Okay. So we've had some of you write in questions for our speaker, for Joe, and she's agreed to do them, not even knowing what the questions are, so we'll give it a shot here. All right?
Not on yet. There we go. Yay.
Okay, great. What is your favorite means of rest?
My favorite means of rest, worship. So anytime that I get to worship, and I typically can do this even at home, music is a balm to the soul. I can find hymns and music that speak to the prayers that are in my soul and find rest through that. Yeah.
Then the same person asked the question, what is your least favorite form of rest?
Speaking? I am not great at sitting still and listening to speaking. And so I have to have some way to fidget, some way to move in the midst of listening to somebody impart words. I can usually read it better than hearing it. So, yeah.
Very good. How do you not allow rest to become another burden?
That's great. How do you not allow rest to become another burden? You see it as a gift. You find it as the gift that it really is. It's not a mandate. It's not a rule. It's a blessing. Finding rest has been a chore until I could saw it as really, this is a balm for my soul. It is a prize that I get. And so then I seek it out instead of avoiding it.
How do you give yourself grace when you miss a time?
Remembering that I'm human, I'm a person, I'm a mess. I am the messiest mess of messes, and know that tomorrow I have a chance to try it again. His mercies are new every morning.
What does your life look like during this season? The good, the bad, the ugly. You said that you've been doing this for 5 weeks now, and you told us about your first few days. So
Yes.
what's it look like
Now.
since?
Yes. Since I have learned to really appreciate my insomnia, which, again, that almost sounds counterintuitive, but most days I'm awake between 3 and 5 in the morning. And those are times that instead of fighting to go back to sleep, I turn over, I reach for my phone, and I do my devotional reading. And through that, honestly, the Lord just lulls me back to sleep. I'm able to sit, I'm able to pray, I'm able to find that peace. Yesterday, I fought it. Yesterday, I decided to be obstinate, and I did not go back to sleep until 7. So I know there is a purpose in it. But again, I also know there's mercy. Yeah.
Very good. So when you get up in the morning and you have an hour, where do you start? The first thing is the devotional? Do you use music at all during that hour?
No.
Okay.
No, it's the first thing's the devotional. The music will come when I'm making breakfast or sometime throughout the day.
Do you journal at all?
Not well. If I journal, it is very sporadic, and it's because I need to get something out. Otherwise, most things are in my head. Yeah.
Is it possible to be in a good relationship with God and still feel despair?
Absolutely.
Want to elaborate?
Absolutely. Look at Job. Job was in relationship with God, but his life was in despair. Relationship with God does not always equal positive emotion. It's just knowing where our help comes from. being in relationship with God does not mean that I don't suffer through anxiety and depression. Being in relationship with God lets me know and keeps me in a balance so that when I decide to step out of my lane, relationship with God lets me know, no, he has these other things. And I can keep going my own path.
You do pretty good on your feet like that. Does joy precede growth, or is it a result of growth?
For me, it's been a result of growth. As I said, growth is very comfortable. Growth, there's a lot of groaning and gnashing of teeth and me kicking and screaming. But when I come out of the other side of growth and I can see where I've been and see where the Lord has taken me is where I have found joy in the growth that is of itself and where I am currently.
Is it possible to grow with God without feeling joyful?
I would say yes. I would say that growing with God and joy are not mutually exclusive. There are definitely periods where joy is hard to find. As long as we are seeking, when you are looking for something, doesn't mean you've already found it as you're looking. Looking can be a process.
How do you know the difference between resting and avoidance when dealing with anxiety?
That's a great question because I'm a master avoider. Can you come out of it? That's the question, is can you come out of it? When I am resting, I'm able to be present still. After rest, I can still be present. When I am avoiding, I am not there mentally or emotionally for the people that are around me. So if I'm avoiding and I'm reading, nobody can talk to me. I cannot hear things that are going around. Can you come out of it?
I believe we're finished with the questions. Is there any other questions coming on live chat? No? We're going to close up the session a little early, and we'll be back on at 10:45. We'll be back on at 10:45. Will we have music going? And we will have some music going. We'll see you then.
Okay.
Blessings. Thanks, Jill.
Thank you.